Episode of Locked On Wolves. The Timberwolves lost in an embarrassing final minute collapse against Phoenix on Friday night. But yes, there can still be silver linings. Even when a good team beats another good team and it feels like the sky is falling, there's still silver linings. I promise. We'll talk about it all next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, the Timberwolves on Friday night, I think embarrassing is the right word to use. The collapse against Phoenix, they were up, 9 with a little over a minute to play. They were up 8 with a minute to play. They gave up what ultimately was a 9-0 Phoenix run down the stretch, and also, setting the stage here. I mean, Devin Booker had fouled out. Dylan Brooks fouled out over the course of the proceedings in the final minutes. It was a pretty bad loss. A couple days ago, the live postcast, of course, with Luke and Jack from Friday night. So we're a couple days removed from it, but I want to pull out some of the, I'm going to call them silver linings. There were silver linings. There were things that were really good about the vast majority of that game. And also, overall, the Wolves right now are in a pretty good place. And I promise I'm not always positivity guy. If you're regularly listening to the show, I'm pretty realistic. I feel okay about where Minnesota sits. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I give some context for the Timberwolves compared to really the rest of the league at this point. That's what we'll do today to start. We'll hit a couple more specific things from the Phoenix game, and then we'll close by looking ahead to tonight's Wolves-Kings game as the Wolves look to get back on the right side of the ledger and avoid a losing streak. We'll do all that on the show today. Big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. All right. So I think it's really important to remember just how good the Timberwolves played for 40+, 44+ minutes, 45+ minutes of Friday night's game against Phoenix. The Timberwolves offense was actually humming. The offense itself was the process was impressive. The process was, I would say, beyond solid. It was just really good. They got a lot of open looks at threes. They missed a lot of open looks at threes. Jaden McDaniels had his worst shooting night of the season so far. He certainly wasn't the only one. Randle missed 5 threes. DiVincenzo missed 5 threes. DiVincenzo only scored, 9 points? I think he had a bucket up until the fourth quarter and until he hit a couple of shots late as the Wolves extended their lead to a double-digit lead. They led by as many as 9 points in the fourth quarter. And of course, it's also important to point out, Minnesota was actually down by 13 at halftime, had a big third quarter, came all the way back, took this fourth quarter lead, and everything really, the only thing that didn't go well for the Timberwolves over the bulk of this game was turnovers. Obviously, Phoenix turned it over way more than Minnesota did. Phoenix turned it over somehow 28 times in this game. Minnesota turned it over 22. That's too much. And then I would say offensive rebounds / second chance points / points in the paint for Phoenix. Minnesota was only a +4 points in the paint against a team that, they have no business. Mark Williams is a nice player, but the Timberwolves should not be losing points in the paint to the Phoenix Suns. And I guess they didn't. They were a +4, but they should not only be a +4 in the points in the paint margin. The second chance point opportunities, the 15 offensive rebounds they relinquished to Phoenix, those are the only real negatives outside of the final 2 minutes of this game. And that and the 3-point shooting, the process to get the 3-point shots, the amount of times they got to the free throw line in this game, all of that was good. And we know the Timberwolves are a good shooting team. They've been top 3 in 3-point percentage all season as a team. They're a pretty good free throw shooting team as well. They missed 10 free throws in this game, and they missed 25 threes. They were 32% from 3 and 70% from the free throw line. Both are surprisingly low marks. They're uncharacteristically low marks, combined with the fact that Phoenix turned the ball over 28 times, and it's really more fluky than anything else that the Timberwolves lost this game. Now, I realize that last season the Timberwolves underperformed their Pythagorean win-loss, their point difference, that 53 or 54, and they had 49, I think it was 54 and they had 49 wins. They were -5. What does that tell us? I spent a lot of time this offseason talking about it. Well, a lot of times it's bad luck. It means you're playing a lot of close games. And you're there's less blowouts, right? Now, that could be skewed a little bit by maybe you're playing close games against bad teams. That was a little bit last year, but it was more the late game execution and some flukiness. I think for the Wolves, it's fair to say that it was late game execution more than anything else. It wasn't simply bad luck, although that plays into it. When you lose that many close games, it's not simply, all right, they didn't execute. This game was both. Fluky that they lost a game in which the opponent turned it over 28 times. Fluky that they lost a game in which they got to the line 33 times. And fluky that they lost a game in which both Devin Booker and Dillon Brooks, the two top scorers on the other team, both foul out in the final minutes. And yet here we are. But if you look at the final 2 minutes, absolutely execution was a big part of it, right? So all these things work together to lead to this loss. But the point is, the offensive process is showing progress. The amount of open threes that the Wolves generated, the amount of times they got to the free throw line against a good Phoenix team that's actually been really good defensively here of late, and actually really all season to, 15, I guess now 16 games in, that matters. The process matters. And there's no denying that the close of the game is bad. And we'll get into that a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we'll get into it here in a minute. I do think it's important, like sitting here right now, if you look at the 4 factors league-wide and you look at both units for the Timberwolves, the offense and the defense, according to Cleaning the Glass, the Timberwolves are one of only 6 teams that's top 10 in offense and top 10 in defense coming into play Sunday. And that could shift a little with the Wolves idle and a lot of teams playing. But coming into play Sunday, Minnesota was 6th in offense and 10th in defense. Only 5 other teams are top 10 in both. Obviously, Oklahoma City, obviously Houston, obviously Detroit, who just doesn't lose anymore. Those, not Houston, but OKC and Detroit are actually, oh no, wait. Detroit's not top 5. Anyway, OKC, Houston, Detroit, Toronto, which is a huge surprise, and they're top 5 on both ends of the floor, and then Phoenix are the only other teams outside of Minnesota. Okay, OKC, Houston, Detroit, Toronto, and Phoenix and Minnesota are the 6 teams that are top 10 in both offense and defense. Denver's number 1 in offense, but they are 12th in defense. The Knicks are top 5 in offense, but they're 19th in defense. Cleveland has been a little bit disappointing so far this year. The Lakers are top 10 offensively, but bottom half defensively. So if you look at that, that would suggest Minnesota's a top 6 team. And guess what? They're actually 6th in overall point differential coming into play Sunday as well. And I know that doesn't matter as much as the win-loss. And yes, I also predicted that on New Year's Day this year, this is going to look hilarious now, that Minnesota would only have 7 losses. I thought they'd go 27-7 to close out the calendar year of 2025. Unless they only have 1 loss in the next 5 weeks, that was wrong. Part of the reason I thought that was because of the schedule. And yes, Minnesota has held up their end of the bargain against bad teams. One of the things you can do on Cleaning the Glass is filter by success against opponent for top 10 offense, top 10 defense, or bottom 10 for both, or middle 10, and then also differential. So if you filter it, like we've talked about this already, how Minnesota's beaten the bad teams, but just right here, the numbers against opponents with a top 10 point differential so far this season, Minnesota's 0-4 with a minus 12.3 point differential. 0-4 against top 10 teams. Okay. Against bottom 10 teams, Minnesota is 7-0. They've taken care of business. You can only play you can only beat who you play. Also, you can only play who you play. They're 9-0 against bottom 10 teams. OKC, by the way, is 12-0 against bottom 10 teams. So, they're doing the same thing, and nobody's mad at OKC for beating bad teams. I know that they've only lost 1 game total, but they've racked up 12 wins against bottom 10 teams. Okay, so that matters. It matters that they take care of business. And they've only somehow played 3 middle 10 teams. The only middle 10 team they've beaten is Toronto. They've lost to Portland. In terms of point differential, that was opening night. And they've lost twice to the Lakers, who are also in the middle 10 in terms of point differential. So they've lost to all 4 good teams they've played. They've beaten all 7 bad teams they've played, and they're 1-2 against middle of the pack teams. Now, of course, these things are going to shift throughout the course of the season, and everybody's identity changes as injuries rack up and whatever else. But it's important to note this, that Minnesota has beaten bad teams like they're supposed to. And yes, that does play into their overall 6th best point differential and their top 10 offense and their top 10 defense. Absolutely. But guess what? Outside of the OKC game this week, that's kind of what the next few weeks look like too. It's a relatively soft schedule through the balance of the calendar. I think they've only got like 1 more back-to-back. They got one this coming weekend. I think maybe 1 in December. And then it gets a lot tougher in January. So they can't mess around a whole lot longer. But it's encouraging that the process continues to improve for Minnesota. And I thought it improved for 45-ish minutes against Phoenix on Friday night. And I don't want to lose sight of that. I don't think we can just simply say, look, this was a terrible collapse. And we can, and I'm about to go through it. But can they do the little things, right? And we'll talk about some of the little things that didn't go well. Can they avoid the late game collapses? Can they beat the teams they're supposed to beat and win a couple games here and there against good teams? And Phoenix is, to this point in the season, a good team. They have the same record as Minnesota. All right, let's dig in a little bit on the Suns game specifically Friday. Talk about some of those small, ultimately big, but the little things that compounded into big problems on Friday. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. And that's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price are awesome. That means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Plus, their automated tools include offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposit. It will save you hours every week. Plus, knowing you can reach certified HR experts at any time gives you real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnba. Get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right. 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnba. One more time. That's gusto.com/lockedonnba. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is also brought to us by our friends at Wayfair. The holiday season is here. Thanksgiving is this week. All the biggest shopping days of the year upcoming. That means it's time to get your home ready. Maybe you're hosting already for Thanksgiving, or you're hosting holiday parties between Thanksgiving and the end of the calendar year. You might need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, fun serveware for holiday hosting, and more. The Wayfair Black Friday sale is here to help make your space shine. And the best part is you don't have to wait for this Friday. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. We're not hosting for Thanksgiving, but we'll have some people here between now and the end of the year. I'll tell you what, we need to upgrade a couple things in our kitchen. We're definitely going to be on Wayfair to do that. You can browse through their site and find anything that fits your style, not just generic stuff, but quality designs that feel personal. If you've ever hosted family for the holidays, you know how much difference a few new touches can make, and Wayfair makes that easy. Don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. Big thank you once again for making Locked On Wolves your first listen of the day, and a thank you also for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. That's right. We are #1, and we could not do it without you, the loyal listener. That does make us your first listen every day, and it is greatly appreciated. All right. Let's talk about Friday's game specifically and what happened down the stretch. Remember, this is like the fourth time I've said this. It's important. Devin Booker and Dillon Brooks had fouled out, and Booker got a technical after he fouled out after the questionable call that led to his disqualification. Dillon Brooks should have fouled out several times before what he actually did. Everything really was like, it was great. It was in the Wolves' favor down the stretch, or it should have been in the Wolves' favor down the stretch, up 8 in the final minute. And then what happened? Well, I thought the overall defensive possession that led to the disaster, well, I guess first there was the missed rebound, which I'm going to blame Anthony Edwards for ball watching there toward the end of the game. This was, let's see, I'm going to get the exact play-by-play here correct. Minnesota's up 7 after, remember, Julius Randle actually split. So like, that's another thing. I mentioned the missed free throws earlier, but Randle split a pair of free throws twice within 3 seconds of each other. He split a pair, got his own rebound, got fouled, split a pair again. So now Minnesota's up 7. And then actually Royce Neal split a pair, and then DiVincenzo made a couple. So it's an 8-point game with a minute left. Dillon Brooks misses a 3. Tough shot. Minnesota did a good job of forcing a tough shot. It's still an 8-point game, except Anthony Edwards is watching the ball go in, doesn't pay attention to his guy, Royce O'Neal, in the corner, and doesn't realize he's corner crashing. He gets an easy putback. It's a 6-point game. Yes, the officials missed the what should have been a delay of game against Dillon Brooks. And yes, that should have been a technical, no question. Officiating was not great in this game, by the way, but, you know, neither here nor there. Timberwolves still should have won regardless. Ant makes a bad pass in the inbounds. Him and DiVincenzo miscommunicate. Gillespie gets the steal. He kicks it to Jordan Goodwin, who knocks down a three. And now all of a sudden, in the course of 7 seconds, it goes from an 8-point game to a 3-point game. Julius Randle immediately turns the ball over on the inbounds. Jordan Goodwin makes a bucket. It's a 2-point game. Julius Randle turns it over again. Dillon Brooks gets the offensive foul. Dillon Brooks fouls out. That's all great. The Timberwolves still get the ball up 1, and Anthony Edwards misses a pair of free throws after he's fouled. That's like somehow that's getting lost. Like the Julius Randle missed free throws and the Ant missed free throws. You can withstand a couple of turnovers when you're up by 3 possessions, but you can't also miss free throws. You can do one or the other, right? But you can't do both. Ant misses both free throws. The Suns get the ball. For some reason, Jalen Clark's not on the floor. This has been pointed out plenty of times on X already, but Jalen Clark's not on the floor. He's arguably the Timberwolves' best defender right now. Jaden McDaniels is obviously incredible, but if you want to say best point of attack defender, especially against a small guard like Gillespie, who with no Booker, no Brooks, the Timberwolves should have known that the play was going to get ran for Colin Gillespie, who'd had a big night. He's had a good season so far. That should have been obvious. And he gets the bucket, tough bucket, but Jalen Clark would have given him the business. It would have been a lot more difficult for him. He hits the tough shot. Minnesota's out of timeouts, and Julius Randle takes ultimately a poor 3-point attempt when they're down 1. I think he's just trying to recreate his buzzer beater over Phoenix last November at Target Center. Just like, I know that they don't have timeouts. You have 5 seconds, but kicking the ball ahead to somebody else would have made sense. Pass it to Ant, get a little deeper instead of allowing yourself to shoot that tough pull up. You're not down 2, you're not down 3, you're down 1. Go to the bucket. So the final minute plus, it was mostly Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle that messed up between the missed free throws, the turnovers. Each of them had a turnover. Randle did draw the foul on Dillon Brooks, which was nice. And then, I mean, each one missed 2 free throws in the final minute 20, and then the ultimate final missed shot from Julius Randle. It's a comedy of errors. And I will blame Chris Finch, maybe timeout usage, not stemming the tide earlier, running out of timeouts, and then also the lack of the Jalen Clark sub was a problem. Maybe not having a plan before that final Phoenix possession. And maybe they did. Maybe the Timberwolves said, hey, if Phoenix scores, like do this because we don't have any timeouts, right? So sometimes teams will have a full court, let's run this play, let's do whatever, let's get this look because of, it's going to be a broken floor situation and we think we can put pressure on the rim, whatever. But instead, if they did have a plan, they didn't execute it, and Julius Randle shot the tough 3-pointer. The biggest problems were the combination of the missed turnovers and the missed free throws. I would say, like I said, I mean, like if Ant hits one of those free throws, it's a tie game and it goes to overtime, and maybe they still lose because they don't have momentum. If Julius Randle hits one more free throw, it's a tie game. And go all the way back to obviously the delay of game, the bad clear path foul, or the not clear path, the take foul that they called on Julius Randle that I thought was a poor call. That led to an extra point for Phoenix. But then again, the Suns gave one back on the Devin Booker technical. So we could play this game all day. The thing is, you can't have all these things happen, and they still ended up only losing by 1. So hopefully they can take I guess the main takeaway can be, look, if we do the little things right, make free throws at a reasonable clip, inbound the ball without turning it over, either box out or at least know where the guy's coming from so you can throw a body into him. Maybe Ant gets called for a foul on the box out. Just throw a body on O'Neal so he doesn't just run in and get the free rebound. Ant just tried to jump in and get it flat-footed, and O'Neal got it and got the putback. Like, all these things combined together for the loss. The body of the 45-plus minutes for Minnesota was positive. Really 46 minutes, actually, was positive for Minnesota. The process was good for a lot of the stuff, but the execution down the stretch was miserable. And yes, some of it does reflect on the coaching staff. There's no question. Chris Finch deserves some blame for what ended up happening in this game. But your best 2 players, Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, have to perform better down the stretch. And also your third best player, third best scorer at least, in Jaden McDaniels, and probably third best player at this point. He had 4 steals in this game. That's great. He had 3 offensive rebounds. That's great. But he was 0 for 5 on threes. He was 5 of 7 on twos, which is nice. It was a team best +9. So he was okay in this game. Gobert had 12 and 12. And DiVincenzo didn't show up, and Nas didn't have a very good game either. But they had every opportunity to win down the stretch. This was Ant and Julius Randle pretty much single-handedly together, if you will, just kicking it, just messing up down the stretch. That's what happened here. All right. So, by the way, NBA Cup, or whatever it's called now. Yeah, the Emirates Cup. The Timberwolves still have a shot. They'd have to beat OKC on Wednesday, which is obviously a tall task for a 16-1 as of right now Thunder team. So we will see. We will see how that goes. But they really kind of cost themselves a chance at that money in Vegas, potentially as well, if they can't win Wednesday. All right, let's talk about Wolves Kings. We'll do that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors at FanDuel. The NBA is now almost 6 weeks into the season. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of any given game or you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push. There's no line yet on the Timberwolves Kings game on Monday night, but my guess is that the Wolves are going to be favored. Let's see. It is at Sacramento. It's a late game. Sacramento did just win, actually. Weirdly, they beat somebody. Oh, they beat Denver. Crazy. And Sabonis is out now too. So I would imagine Minnesota's probably going to be 8.5, maybe 9.5 point favorites in this game. They've obviously beaten the Kings twice already. So pay attention to that. You could also live bet the game. If Minnesota's down early, maybe you think they'll make a big comeback on the road, or fade the Timberwolves based on what happened Friday against a weird, volatile, potentially high-scoring team in the Kings on the road. You could do that. You could live bet whatever you want to do during the game on Monday night. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. Timberwolves take on the Kings for, believe it or not, the third, and actually, believe it or not, final time this season on Monday night. It's a 9 p.m. Central tip in Sacramento. The Timberwolves beat them in Sacramento back on November 9th by 27 points. And then they beat them by 14 at home later that same week. That was the Cup game, I believe. The Kings are bad. They're 4-13 currently, but they did just beat the Denver Nuggets somehow, some way they did. And, they won, let's see, without Sabonis, yet the Kings had, and Jokic had like 44 in that game too. Like, the Kings have no business winning games like that, but that also shows you, like, hey, look, they could do this to the Timberwolves. They'd lost 8 straight games. They come back and they beat the Nuggets with a big fourth quarter. They had been down by 4 at halftime. They were down by 1 going into the fourth quarter, and then they outscored the Nuggets by 6 in the fourth. Jokic has 44. And the Kings broke their 8-game losing streak. And again, this is without Domantas Sabonis. So this is DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine mid-ranging them to death. Russell Westbrook doing Russell Westbrook stuff. He's playing pretty well here recently. He had 21 and 11 against his former team. You know how this works when he plays his former teams. But Sacramento's still a dangerous, at times, offensive team. I even hesitate to say that without Sabonis, but clearly it can work to an extent. They're second to last in defense. They're up to 20th in offense, and they don't turn the ball over because they get so many shots up. They get a lot of free throw attempts. That a lot of that was Sabonis, though, so that's going to go away. They're going to try and mid-range to death the Timberwolves, and we know they can do that. This is just another opportunity for Minnesota to bank a win against a bad team, and the Kings aren't a big offensive rebounding team, again, especially without Sabonis. So as long as they can keep Westbrook from just playing at a breakneck speed and creating more havoc, and if he doesn't get lucky from outside the arc, and LaVine and DeRozan both have kind of average LaVine and DeRozan games, the Wolves should be just fine. But if one of those 3 veterans decides to go turn back the clock, supernova, efficient scorer night, then Minnesota's going to have to just outscore Sacramento. And for the most part, the Timberwolves defense was okay against Phoenix on Friday. I mean, obviously there were lapses and especially late, but the defense itself, I didn't really talk about that earlier. I just talked about the offensive process. I thought the defensive performance from the Timberwolves against the Suns was pretty good overall. And we've obviously seen that to an extent against the Kings so far this season. So just play solid defense, force them into at least difficult contested mid-range jumpers. Remember the last game, the Cup game, it took Minnesota until the fourth quarter to really pull away. It was, I think, a tie game going to the fourth quarter. The Timberwolves outscored the Kings 32-19 in the final quarter. And this was prior to the Sabonis injury. This was Ant had 30 points on 20 shots in that game, and he got to the line 12 times, but missed a bunch of threes. He was 1 of 7 on threes. And he was, let's see, Julius had 26, 11, and 5, and Nas had 12 and 12 off the bench. So, like, again, a game Minnesota should win. Keep the Kings off the free throw line, contest their mid-range jumpers. Don't let them simply control the pace of this game, because the Kings would love to do that. And if Minnesota can handle that, they should be just fine. This should be a win for the Timberwolves. And like I said, I expect them to be probably around a 9-point favorite in this game on the road. It is, I think, probably a fair number, and Minnesota should win. It's also very important to win given what happens Wednesday. They play the Thunder in their final pool play game, or whatever. Is it called pool play? Group play against the OKC Thunder on Thanksgiving Eve on Wednesday. And then after that, they're off Thanksgiving Day. Everybody's off Thanksgiving Day. They're off Friday. They play Boston at home on 4 o'clock on Saturday, and the Spurs on Sunday. Which the Spurs, with the Wemby injury, things have looked a little different for them here of late. But again, winnable games, right? And then New Orleans twice. Obviously, New Orleans is one of the worst teams of the league. And then the Clippers, who are struggling. And then Phoenix again. And then Memphis, who's struggling. And then OKC, but that's like a month out. So outside of the OKC game Wednesday, Minnesota is very likely going to be favored in all of the rest of these games. Maybe not home against Phoenix, but my guess is they will do just fine over the next few weeks. So very winnable game Monday, a very difficult game Wednesday, and then winnable games for the foreseeable future beyond that. But if the Wolves could beat the Thunder Wednesday, I mean, that would obviously go along. Like, how much better is everyone going to feel if the Timberwolves beat OKC on Wednesday? This Phoenix game will be forgotten very quickly. And again, if they could take away the little things they did poorly, learn a lesson from that, and continue the improvement in process on the offensive end especially, but overall the way that they've been playing, then they'll be in good shape here moving forward. All right. That's all I got for you today. I'll be back again on Tuesday with the post-game pod following Wolves Kings on Monday night. I'll probably post late on Monday night, or maybe very early Tuesday. And also later in the week, I'll likely be hosting at least one of the live postcasts next weekend. A reminder that we do the live postcast on Locked On Wolves on YouTube and on the audio feed. So no matter where you're watching or listening right now, the episode before this is our guys Luke and Jack that do the live postcast. I'll be filling in for Luke at least once this upcoming weekend. So hopefully we'll see you over there at the live postcast. But again, watch tonight after Wolves Kings as well. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. A reminder that for your second listen, you can check out the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast. Our guy Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast out there, giving you daily tips and helping you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Of course, this show is also part of that very same Locked On Podcast Network, and the Locked On Sports Network is now the #1 sports podcast network out there, period. #1. Also, your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.